Coffee with the Summerland Kids. Here we are. It is June 2024, and it's let's see, it's Friday. It's casual Friday here in the Coffee with the Summerland Kids, and the weather in Summerland today is mostly sunny. It's 58 degrees currently with a high of 73. So, what a beautiful day in Summerland.
I miss the cool mornings in summer.
Yeah, I know. I mean, because it was like that. I remember going after the 4th of July was my favorite on the 5th of July to go down to the beach in Summerland and try to find fireworks that didn't go off.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Because at night, all the parents are down there and they're kind of supervising us. And then in
Yeah.
the morning, we'd go down, and if we found any that hadn't lit off, well, we would light them off ourselves.
Exactly. And just those old labels. I just love those old labels, like the Black Cat fireworks and just all the labels, just all that trash, essentially. But it's cool trash because it's like 4th of July trash is cool, when you're like 10 years old.
Yeah. Have you ever been involved in one of them firework wars?
Not so much, but I've seen them. I saw it happen in LA because we could get on our roof and look out toward the expansive city, and you'd see, like the whole city would go off essentially on 4th of July. The whole place would just light up, and you could see other cities, especially other little cities, where they do like, oh, we're doing our fireworks show at the courthouse lawn or whatever they choose to do. But it'd be really prominently happening for hours and hours and hours. You're like, how are these people pulling this off? But apparently it's like
expensive. I know that some of the people around here, because there's a Native American reservations, and so you can get, I still don't understand, as fire prone, and Smokey the Bear sign says it's high risk, but there's still fireworks. And some people I know, they spend a lot of money on. It's like a big deal for a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, our neighbors, I remember they used to have those, like, it's kind of like a suitcase that, it's the family pack or something. And then because they do the classic sales approach at the old, I remember you could drive to Fillmore. I think for some reason Fillmore out there on the 126 past Ventura would be a classic place that would sell fireworks or something.
They sold the big fireworks, not the little fireworks.
I think so. Yeah. Like, because
I think it's because it's a Native American. I know when I was in Washington, in order to get the mortars and the firecrackers and stuff, we would go out to the Indian reservation, the Native American reservation, and they had a whole farmer's market, if you will, like just booths left and right. This guy had, the 100-pack or the 1,000-pack of firecrackers, the big spool. That guy had the mortars. The other guy had, the spinners and all the different ones.
Yeah.
But being in California, most of the time it's the Safe and Sane.
Okay.
But I'm down in Pismo Beach one year. There was a big, I guess, almost a riot where, it started out, a couple of the teenagers or young adults shot some fireworks towards some other people, and they shot them back. And the whole beach blew up as like a battleground, literally a firework battle. People running around with Roman candles and bottle rockets, shooting not in the air, but at each other.
Right. Yeah, that used to happen in Santa Barbara down on Ledbetter Beach. They used to let people dig these big pits, so you dig these giant holes in the sand and create like your own little scene, your own pit. And for years that happened. And then it finally got outlawed. I guess they just decided it was too much beach cleanup after, like we said, in Summerland, we'd have the little, there'd be a few families that go down there, but it was, more tame compared to Ledbetter. Of course, down by the harbor, the Santa Barbara Harbor, that's where they always launch off the fireworks. So it was a popular place to go watch the fireworks, of course. So, Yeah, Cabrillo Boulevard, that whole area, like, what is it? East Beach, West Beach, right by the Stearns Wharf Pier. If you had friends that owned boats, it was always cool to be on a boat, to watch the fireworks from the boats. That was always.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun. I um just watching the fireworks. I know that I was in Templeton. It's a little town just north of San Luis Obispo, still in the Central Coast, but
Yeah,
inland a bit. And they had a park, and that was like where most of the families would go to the park. And once it started getting dark, you couldn't barely see your hand in front of your face because of all the smoke. And I just that smell is something that always brings
yeah.
back a lot of
That's another
memories.
thing, like in downtown, because they have a fireworks show, I believe, at City Hall in downtown Los Angeles. They have, because they call it, I think it's called Grand Park. So it's a new park that they built in the, let's say, the last 15 years. They built Grand Park, and it's a beautiful park. It cascades down to look upon City Hall, and so they have that as a gathering place downtown with lots of grass and lawn space, and they launch off a nice city run fireworks show right there with some music and stuff. I think they use it as sort of like a it's an evening event, family fun, all that. And they have like some live acts, they have a stage. So they really kind of make it happen for sure for the city of Los Angeles. Um, you know, I'm not there this year. I think they probably gonna have a little show here. Thankfully, we've been getting lots of rain. We got more rain last night. And so all the trees, we're I don't know if we're necessarily, I would say we're probably on an average, maybe even above average rainfall year at this point for this time of year. I think we're doing real good. So that's good for the fire danger aspect to keep that fire danger down, you know?
Well, I know we're definitely got a lot of rainfall here in California, up here north. They keep talking about the
Okay.
dams being full. The Orville Dam is full, and I guess it's it doesn't happen all the time. I guess we've had a couple back-to-back years that we've had good
Yeah.
rainfall, good snowpack. So and even in San Luis Obispo, and like you were saying in
They're
Kachuma,
full.
they're full.
Yeah.
Um, but oh gosh, so I'm not a very political minded person. In fact, I rarely even
Yeah.
go out and vote. But you were saying that you watched a
Yeah.
little bit of the
Yeah.
debate
Yeah.
last night.
And I had to
You
call
listened
my
to it.
friend in because my friend was like listening to it on the radio, because he's gotten back in tune with radio since he's been here for the month. And so he's pulled himself because the access to the internet is pretty limited where I'm at. We can pull it on my cell phone booster, but nonetheless, I was watching a little bit of it live and I called him in. I'm like, dude, you got to see this. Just the expressions on their faces, because these guys are, bless their heart. My dad's 82, so I think he's the same age as Biden, and my dad will be 83 this September. So, these guys, bless their heart, they're old guys. They got 30 years on us. 30 years, but when you think about it, when we were 30 years old, we were grown ass men at that point at 30 years old, so it's like, it's essentially another lifetime on top of what we've already lived. So, you'd have to be a very sharp shooter to be, pulling off like a really, engaging conversation with the nation essentially. And that's the challenge, I guess, to engage the public, get them pumped up, psyched up, feeling confident. And what I took away from it essentially is the confidence, maybe waning on the side for Biden, um, and then also, of course, for Trump. There's people have mixed feelings about Trump, as they always have had mixed feelings about him, and now they have mixed feelings. I want to say about if how well Biden can hold it together. I know he's got a cabinet. He's got a group of people around him, but it's like when you're a team captain, you want to take the players in the room and really give them some inspiration and really engage them and inspire them to go out and do the best game they can possibly do. But if you're, maybe at that point, it almost like be having like the captain's father come in and talk to everybody. It's like he doesn't have the same, he might have a couple of good.
They don't have the same energy,
Right.
the same vigor. I mean, I could see, yeah. I guess you got to be 35 or something. There's a certain age limit. You can't be
Okay.
just a young pup and run for president. And that makes sense to me because you got to have a little bit of experience under your belt, a
Yeah.
little bit of wisdom, understand the dynamics of all the like you're saying, the cabinet, the House, the
Yeah.
Congress, and all that. But I guess at what point, is it too much? Are you too tired to basically campaigning? And when you're campaigning, you're running around from here to there, different speeches, different towns, and that's
For
got to
sure.
be taxing. I mean, I'm barely over 50, and I get taxed. I mean, maybe all the years of smoking cigarettes and drinking beer and smoking weed has taken its toll on me in other ways. But at the same time, even a perfectly healthy man, once they get up to like 75 or 80, there's no way they can keep up, physically, with a younger man. I guess, I don't know if you follow fighting or boxing, but the whole Mike Tyson, Jake Paul thing, where everyone's like, oh, well, if Jake Paul wins, he's just beating up an old man, kind of feeling, but at the same time, you look at Tyson and medicine and health and all the supplements that are available these days. I mean, you can maintain your health, for quite some time beyond what it was maybe
For sure.
50 years
For sure.
ago.
Yeah. I think our life expectancy, maybe we've turned it back now where we were kind of like extending life out, but now maybe it's turning back a little bit less now. I think that's kind of the general consensus, but yeah, it's just thinking about the firing on all cylinders and being able to, take what an opponent says, or you're essentially it's one man against another in terms of a debate type of platform, but they had the mics turned off when you're not speaking, your mic is off. So there's no chatter being had between speeches. So it's really interesting because it's just one guy talking. Okay, cut the mic. Here's the next guy talking. Cut the mic. So there's no in between conversation really. But fact checking, it's got to be challenging for those guys because one guy comes on to another guy and says, "You did this, you did that," but the other guy has to respond with a incredibly intelligent answer, or just go off the cuff and go on a whole different subject. So, but the moderators kept on try to keep them on point. Like, please answer the question, Mr. President. Don't to try to not stay on topic. Essentially, is the challenge for those guys. I would say.
I imagine too, like a certain level, it's an extension of the campaign. So yeah, it's called a debate, and they're supposed to be debating topics. But at the same time, like you're saying, instead of answering the questions, they're going off on talking points more or less as a campaign. Also, another thing, I don't know how factual it is, but I was reading an article where like CNN was holding the debate, and they're like, "Oh no, you can't stream it on any other thing. You can't." Like I guess Elon Musk and the X Twitter thing was like, "Oh no, we're going to stream it and we're going to allow commentary because." It's a national discussion. I mean, even though there's two people debating certain topics, this is our president, this is our government, and if it's of the people, it should involve the people and the various, not just two-sided story, because some stories have multiple sides, multiple perspectives. Okay, so Trump saying, "Oh, we need more oil," or Biden saying, oh, green. Well, isn't there another perspective? Is it only yes or no on oil, or is there maybe another idea that is not talked about? I mean, this is, to me, it's interesting. I mean, it's kind of odd because I really don't vote, you know, but I might vote. I mean, just because there is a third guy, an underdog guy, maybe I'll go out and vote for him just because.
Yeah, no,
go
exactly.
underdogs.
That's right. I mean, I jumped on, like I said, we were out running errands, and I knew it was starting up, and I'm like, oh crap, it's about to start any minute. So I jumped on my phone and got on YouTube, and then put in live debate, and right away I could see that there was all the networks were essentially going live at the same time. And I couldn't find CNN right away, but I picked another major network and just jumped on with them. And they have a little moderator who introduced, okay, we're going live to the debate stage. All right. And so they put you right in. And, so it was, I want to say it was a nationwide, it was, I don't know what the numbers are, but I'm sure they were quite large in terms of the people that were watching it,
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I guess I'm a victim of the modern short attention span thing. So I imagine I'll catch parts of it and snippets of it. Of course, Joe Rogan's probably going to talk about it, or whoever else podcasters we're talking about it. So might as well just join the club. Everybody's going to be talking about this.
The flash of it's kind of like watching an episode of the Munsters where they have like Grandpa Munster, and then it would have to be another funny guy from the past who's like, debating that guy, because both those guys I want to say are the normal, pretty cut and dry business type dudes, so it's not Willie Nelson and Bono, chatting some cool conversation. It's not that. It's a whole different ballgame when it comes to who they really are and how long they've been. Well, of course, Biden's been in Washington a lot longer than Trump, but it does create that sort of nationwide hysteria vibe of to me, Trump might as well be like your old you either whether you loved him or hated him, like the high school quarterback or something, who was kind of like that arrogant guy in high school or something, and he still kind of has that vibe or something, who, whether you relate to him or not, you're going to listen and maybe laugh, or listen and be like, okay, I get it.
Or listen and go, you're just an idiot.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's America. We can say that about our leaders, right?
Right, exactly. So,
I think a big part of the appeal of Trump is that he is an outsider. You hear so many stories about congressperson this, and they invested in that, and they passed this bill, and they made a bunch of money, or, they're manipulating this, or they're using the judicial that. And so the fact that he was an outsider, I'm a businessman, I'm a real estate investor, and I haven't been involved in all this, corruption. I'm going to say it, corruption. There's even been a bill passed by Congress, the Truth and Transparency Act, where, that's kind of what they're doing. You hear it in the news. I forget what state or county it was. They're like, oh, we have this account with a bunch of money in it. We don't know where it came from. How lax can your system be if you're just like, oh yeah, imagine that, Jericho. You're like, oh, I didn't know there was this account, or I didn't know this bill was due, or whatnot. And it's kind of interesting to me because with internet and media, it is kind of getting to a global stage, to where we're hearing, the oil in Russia, the oil in Saudi Arabia. It affects us here in America these days, the price of tea in China, you hear that old saying, well, how's that, the price of tea in China? Well, I guess it's kind of a big thing, because if China's selling tea real cheap, and say South America is selling tea real cheap, and you're trying to make tea in America, you might have a competitive disadvantage.
Right.
You know, and there is the global economy. You hear it, you know, the BRICS thing or whatever that is, you know, the different money
Brexit.
system, the
Yeah.
gold standard, all these things, you know, they fly around in my head and bounce
Yeah,
around.
for sure. Right. Yeah, it's amazing. The whole thing really. We'll see what happens. Of course, it's a waiting game now, and you know, I guess the other candidates that are not being heard from, that they'll have something to say after this, of course, and then hopefully people will tune into, you know, some alternative viewpoints, and you know, once it comes down to the election, we'll see. What we're still waiting. We're still waiting. You know.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of important to understand where their perspectives are, but at the same time, we got to understand, you know, just because they feel a certain way doesn't mean that the rest of the government's going to fall in line. You know, you always talk about, oh, the Republicans hold Senate or the Democrats have the House, and they can just hold stuff up and pause. You know,
Yeah.
you hear about it all the time on the news where they're like, oh, we need to pass the budget, and one side or the other saying, well, we need this. We're not going to sign the budget unless we get this. I think the big thing was recently the Republicans were holding up the budget because they wanted some things involved for the border or whatever.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it's like these special interests. And I think with modern society, people are getting more and more aware of these special interests, you know, to where back in the day they can kind of keep it hidden. I mean, of course, I'm a hippie, so I'm like, oh yeah, Hearst made weed illegal so he could sell more trees
Yeah.
or whatever, you know.
Right. I
Um,
mean, you know, just the fact that nowadays we have so many more viewpoints available to us. Where, you know, back when we were kids, I mean, pretty much the news was Santa Barbara News Press, L.A. Times, you know, probably the Wall Street Journal, and you know, those are like the big ones that you get in Santa Barbara, at least. And then, of course, we just have our local news. And then, you know, like we talked about, 13 channels, Los Angeles news. And that's pretty much, that's it. You know, that's all you have. And maybe there's some alternative publications, like what we talked about, the old comic book days, where in the 60s, alternative comics came out and all of a sudden a new voice was being heard. So that's pretty cool how nowadays, you know, there's so much more conversation going on. So the more conversation, you'd hope that those conversations could lead to some leadership coming forward. You know, I mean,
oh, absolutely. I
you
mean,
know, I mean,
it's weird to
geez.
me because I was looking at. I've been kind of following it, and there's that Kennedy guy. I don't know. I
Yeah.
guess Kennedy's a big family, and he was saying, oh, he's going to do his own stream, and he's going to answer all the questions on his own. So instead of being a debate, he's just kind of giving his perspective, which I think is I definitely am going to follow up on some of the snippets. You know,
Yeah, no, for
whether I
sure.
get
I think
motivated
that's,
enough to go vote, that's a whole different story. But
yeah, no, that'll be great to see, you know, just again, the alternative perspective on things, you know, because I mean, obviously, like, for example, in Santa Barbara, we lived through times where before we were even born, I believe, you know, I have to look into that, but the offshore oil drilling off the coast of Santa Barbara and those oil derricks that were out there pretty much through our whole childhood, you know, that stuff in some cases did affect us. Or right before we were born, there was a big oil spill in 1969, I believe. And some of the surfers, some people did get, you know, a tremendous amount of oil on themselves at the beach. And sometimes they did it on purpose, where I heard one guy basically, you know, put himself out there and got really tarred up, and then went to the gas station and literally used gasoline to take off the oil off his body or something.
oh wow,
You know, so it's like there is, like, in some cases, environmental disasters that happen because of essentially bad decision making. You know, I mean, you're going after the money, of course, to pump oil and make money with oil, like oil drilling. You know, how many barrels per day are you pulling out of the earth and all that stuff? Essentially, it's the bottom line. You're chasing the bottom line. But then you have these things like the BP oil disaster, where I think Mark Wahlberg made a pretty cool movie where he portrayed an actor, portrayed a man working on the oil rig, and the oil rig blew up, and he survived it, I believe, through that whole thing. And it's just it's unfortunate that we have to sort of like go after things that really can hurt the environment. You think we try to live more cleanly and sustainably, through life, but the men that came before us obviously have made some incredibly bad decisions, and we have to sort of try to straighten that stuff out over time, I guess, ideally, right? I mean,
well, yeah, I mean, because just because the oil is making oil on the beach, yeah, so there's different perspectives. The surfer is going to be like, screw you guys, we don't need oil, we need clean ocean. But the oil derrick worker or the oil company's like, no, we need to make money. And just through this conversation, it makes me think, okay, the people in the mountain, the people in the farm, the people in the city, the people in the suburbs, the people, and they all have a different need,
Mhm.
they all have different desires. They all have
Yeah.
different ideas of what's going on. And I think that, it's really interesting, that here it is Friday, the last show we're having in June, and
Yeah.
we're like switching gears. You've been super focused on this, and J-Brow's probably gone. Did he take off, or is he
Not
hanging
yet. No, he's leaving on Sunday morning. Yeah, so it's been a productive month. I mean, we've got 20 boxes done of the comic books and books. So 20 boxes inventoried. I still have a little follow up because he sends me the email with like box number 18 and what's in box 18. So I've compiled the list, and I still have some what we call it, secretarial, clerical type work to do on the back end of organizing the list and making it look, so one sendable email with 20 boxes of inventory in it. Or I kind of broke it off at 13 and, blah, 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 inventory of grandpa's stuff. And, I did get into a good flow where I've learned a lot about, after you click and take 600 pictures using the eBay app, and then also Google Lens, it's now I have a good flow going in terms of how I look at my personal library or my personal inventory of stuff, and how easy it is to join the marketplace. So I'm a little bit more motivated now, on my own, in my own inventory. If I have doubles or triples of things, it'd be okay to put it out there into the market,
Yeah, I think that's probably a good idea. I mean, I imagine your cousin and stuff is going to be okay if you're like, hey, we're going to sell, a certain amount of this inventory where we have duplicates and triplicates, to reimburse your costs. I mean, it's one thing to be like, oh yeah, I'm part of the family, I'm doing this for the family, but it's another thing completely to come out of pocket, and pay for some extra help. And you have to absorb that right now.
Yeah,
But at
exactly.
the end of it, if it's like, oh, some museum comes and says, oh, we're going to give you X amount of dollars, you put out money, not to mention your time. I don't know. I just see it as, for me personally, I would think it would be okay with the family per se to maybe sell off some of the stuff to get the reimbursement of your investment, at least, to get to this point.
Yeah, and even I feel really good about it. Like that, my friend, my Facebook friend / online friend, Isabel Drake, the author. Right now, she's in Bowling Green at a pop culture museum library where she can request things. I'd love to get some of the work or some of the magazines and things like that. If I have triples or if I have 20 copies of one thing, I'd love to get those books and magazines and comics essentially into places that can be, so people can research it and learn about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a beautiful thing I think that you're doing is
Yeah.
putting it out there to where it's not just gathering dust in the back of the archive. It's
Yeah.
out there somewhere where people can research it or look at it. I think that's a
Absolutely.
great value, not just to your family if you happen to sell it to a museum, but a great value to society at large, because
Yeah.
on Facebook and stuff, there's a Katie Keene fan club. There's,
Yeah.
you know, Katie Keene, you posted in the fan club. There's some Katie Keene fan magazines that they've created.
Yeah, for
And,
sure.
you know, just to keep the legacy alive.
Yeah, exactly. That's what's up, you know, for sure. So keeping the legacy alive, hopefully we can make, you know, or let's just say, I was going to say make America great again, but I know that's a catchphrase on the Trump side, but we just really need to, let's say, go back to our core values of the early days. And I was thinking about on the ride in, like to inspire young kids, you know, the young entrepreneurs to just, you know, do it here, make your money here, you know, invent here, and you know, find your materials here, and you know, if you're making a little less money, it's okay to not, you know, I mean, there's something to be said for sourcing locally sustainable materials, and then of course, you know, helping the local economy with, like, in terms of a farmer's market and things like that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you know, that's an old another cliche. Think local, act, or think globally and act locally. You did the sideways thing, and you're silent, and it's 30 minutes in, and now you're muted. I guess I have to wrap this up. I can hear so smash that like. We're gonna end the stream.